I'm a stupid piece of shit with a 1-inch flaccid dick, which are the only two qualifications required to talk about stuff on the internet. And I'm a useless fucking drunk that's out of my gourd. Welcome to my delusional nightmare. I am the cr00bl0rd.
Go play this right now. I mean it. Listen to the video while you download the demo on Steam and then play it. I don't care if your dog just projectile shit all over the floor and you're listening to this while you scrub it. I don't want to hear that your child is hungry. Just feed him a cold can of Chef Boyardee. I don't give a fuck if your grandmother has fallen and can't get up 4 feet from where you're sitting. Let the bitch turtle around on the floor for the hour it'll take you to play through this thing. It is really that good. If you'd asked me on March 19th, 2020 what the greatest FPS of all time was, my answer would have been Blood, hands down. Followed by, well, if you'd ever played Blood, you wouldn't be asking me that question. Then Doom Eternal came out, and it's the first FPS I've played since I first played Blood almost a decade ago that I think could ever usurp. The jury is still out on me on which one I think is better, and I do plan to review both games, but while I haven't believed in God for a long time, the resurrection of the FPS genre since the release of Wolfenstein The New Order and Doom 2016, paired with all this free time that I have locked up at home due to the COVID, has re-sparked the idea in my soul that a loving and caring God chooses to rain blessings down upon the humble. Dusk, Ion Fury, Black Mesa, Killing Floor 2, Amid Evil, in the early access of Postal 4, Void Bastards, Nightmare Reaper, and Blood the Fresh Supply Remaster. Even Borderlands 3 turned out to be better than I expected it to be, and I hate those games. This, however, this work of pure craftsmanship, this virginal sacrifice to the arts, culture, and soul of what makes not only a first-person shooter perfect, but gaming mechanics as a whole, this testament to the gods, crafted by the hands of man to display at the base of Mount Olympus with a thundering cry of its creators bellowing out to the heavens in defiance of their masters with a force so strong and unyielding that has not been seen since Lieutenant Dan on the SS Jenny. This masterwork calls out to my soul through every open pore in my body, calling to me as if it were an old one of horrors so unspeakable that I dare not speak their name and pray that I have not awoken them from their slumber. I mean, not to oversell it or anything, but it's really, really good. For starters, when I looked up the specs of this game, the minimum requirements were for a PC that would have been middle of the road for gaming in 2008, which is a potato by today's standards, and that allows for major bonus points right off the bat. That tells me that a developer is either using an older engine to its limits or developed a unique engine designed to run on a variety of machines for maximum optimization, which not only shows a strong love and passion for both the game and the art of gaming itself, but I lost my gaming PC a couple years ago due to the cruel fate of faulty wiring and have since been restricted to playing PC games on my laptop from 2011. Fortunately, my laptop was high-end for its time and can run most AAA games up to 2013, but anything past that is restricted to simply console use. So when a hot new PC game comes along that not only looks great but will run flawlessly on my available hardware, I'm Mr. Sunshine and Morning Wood. I mentioned a few paragraphs ago that I still can't decide whether Blood or Doom Eternal is the best FPS I've ever played, and there's a reason I brought that up. The four main qualities I look for in a first-person shooter are in order as follows: mechanics, atmosphere, brutality, and punishment, with replayability for use as a swing vote when two games stack up well against each other in those four areas. Blood and Doom Eternal are the best examples of those aspects in my opinion, and while I haven't played every FPS ever made, I've played way more than I feel comfortable admitting on the internet. They both have exquisite mechanics that allow for intense fights where you can approach the situation in a variety of ways. They have deep immersive game worlds with a variety of unique locations that change up the vibe and approach to strategy that hooks you in and keeps you interested without adding or taking away from the strong foundation of a small yet solid group of core mechanics. They're extremely intense, fast-paced, and blood-fueled in a way that makes you work for that satisfied feeling you get after making it through a difficult encounter when you turn around to see a room or arena covered in dead monsters and gore dripping from every surface before continuing forward on your destructive rampage. Lastly, of course, they punish you severely for the slightest display of weakness or laziness in such a way that doesn't feel unfair or induces anger, but instead inspires a strong attitude of wanting to beat the Nintendo, if you'll allow me to hack off the AVGN for a minute. This is what I look for in shooters, and y'all could fuck me in the ass if you want to, but the hour I spent playing through the UltraKill Demo for the first time has left me with the impression that if the final game holds up with the same consistency throughout that the demo teases me with, it will not only hold its place among Blood and Doom Eternal, but has the potential to be better than both. This demo may only be an hour long, but it's one of the most magical hours I've ever spent playing a video game. The thing was so intense that not only was it making me sweat, but I started to shake a tiny bit from the adrenaline. I mean, where do I even begin with this thing? I don't want to give too much away because I really want anyone who sees this video to go and play it, so I'm going to keep it down to the key points. The pacing here is flawless. It's fast, fluid, rough, and endlessly intense. The game does use a checkpoint system, but it's got to be one of the best checkpoint systems I've ever seen in an FPS. Checkpoints are either every or every other room, and as soon as you die, you tap the R button and you're immediately back. The time between death and respawn is less than a second if you smack that R button fast enough, which ensures that you're always in the middle of the fray. The only moments of quiet the game offers is in the first room of every level. There's no over music playing, and the only thing that there is a machine that allows you to spend points on upgrades. The upgrade machine has its own music that plays when you get close to it. It's a swing-style music that sounds like it's coming out of an old record player, and it really adds a nice juxtaposition to the rest of the game. Kind of like the save music in Resident Evil 4. Then when you step away from the machine, the game makes the sound of a record slowly coming to a stop, as if someone shut off the phonograph while the record was still on, and it kind of slowly crawls to a stop. This is different than a record scratch, and it's a small touch, but it shows craftsmanship and the fine details and really adds to that overall atmosphere of the game. Moving past that, each room and encounter feels well thought out and lovingly pieced together. There's so many different ways to approach each combat scenario, and the more you play the demo, the better you get at slaughtering enemies in your path. Which is important because UltraKill has a Devil May Cry style combo and point counter that keeps track of all of your score and total carnage count. Once you learn all the little tricks, it becomes much easier to start getting S, SSS, and UltraKill rankings in combat encounters, and it feels so good. One of my favorite tricks is to punch shotgun shells as I fire them out in order to make them explode upon impact. You can ground pound like this is Super Mario 64, sending all the enemies around you high up into the air where you can shoot them with an explosive shot, raining viscera down upon you. One of the more interesting mechanics is that enemy blood heals you. This mechanic really dictates the flow of combat, and it becomes an important resource to manage when surrounded by multiple enemy types of varying speed, damage output, and pain threshold. It also requires that you learn every enemy pattern well enough to get up close and personal with them in order to coat yourself in their nutrients to survive. There's also a dashing you can do both in the air and on the ground, which pulls from a stamina meter. In the demo, you get 3 of them back to back, but they recharge quickly, so you're never without them for long. You'll need to get familiar with every movement possible and every weapon's different alt-fires if you want to have a chance at succeeding on the hardest difficulty the demo has to offer, which is violent. If you're a seasoned FPS player, as in, I only play Doom on Nightmare, I completed Halo 2 on Heroic/Legendary without someone helping me play, and I can beat Serious Sam on the harder difficulty kind of season, start playing this demo on violent difficulty. It's not quite as hard as those things, but it'll definitely be off-putting if you consider yourself to be a casual FPS fan. I don't mean that in a snooty get-good kind of way, it's just definitely more of a challenge. UltraKill shoots for an aesthetic of a PlayStation 1 era game. There's even a visual setting you can select that pixelates everything more, roughs out the edges, and has slight texture warping. I chose to go with that retro aesthetic bullshit because it really gets my pussy wet. What I love about the way UltraKill goes about it is that the aesthetic acts as a lovely homage to that era of video gaming history, but it cleans up some of the more unsightly features that come with PS1 era games being played on the original hardware. There's another setting named PC for all the fucktard pieces of shit, Max, that have no appreciation for art, Max, and are more interested in spending 3 hours, Max, fucking with any file so the captions look perfect in the most optimal resolution, Max, for their overpriced 4K TV that they paid too much for, Max. So if that description sounds like you or your last name is Ovitsky, then just set it to PC and remain ignorant to your own failures in the field of art appreciation. The music here is amazing as well. The game knows where to have specific music and well-timed silence that creates a sense of tension and release that's sensual most often and borders on sexual a few times. The demo goes on just long enough to tease you with the fact that each chapter will have its own music. The prelude chapter that takes up 95% of the demo is fueled by some solid hard rock / industrial style music that manages to walk that fine line of being really intense without being obnoxious or overbearing while you're listening to it. Plus, while I won't give away any visuals or the audio of it, the last level of the demo is the first level of chapter 1 after the prelude. Somehow UltraKill manages to elevate its level of intensity during this last level of the demo while the environment and music do a 180 from the prelude chapter, which tells me that the developer has a solid understanding of how to craft a variety of locations without affecting consistency and tone. Long story short, all these things and more have left me excited to play this game day one of launch. This isn't a common occurrence for me. I've gotten 5 games in the last 4 years on day one. 2 of them were FromSoft games, 2 of them were Doom games, and 1 of them was Death Stranding, which I really enjoyed, by the way, but that's for a later time. Past those 5 games that I got on day one, in that same span of time, there were really only 2 other games I paid $60 for, one of which was another FromSoft game, and the other one was also an id game. My point being is that I'm the type of person who likes to wait until the game hits like a $30 price tag to consider buying it, except for 2 developers I'm faithful to, and 1 auteur who I wanted to plant myself firmly behind after the publisher he was involved with for his entire career decided to behead him in the town square before drenching their body in napalm and lighting themselves up for the world to see. With that in mind, I am not only willing but excited about the opportunity to throw my money at this developer and their art. Please take the time to play this demo, you won't be disappointed.
Later, Nick!